Every morning at 4:45, before the town lights began to fade and before most families had opened their eyes, Ethan Cole quietly tied the laces of his worn-out shoes and prepared to walk 7 miles to work. One at the furniture factory knew. His co-workers only saw a quiet man arriving before the first shift, his shirt clean, his hair neatly combed, and his face calm. They did not see the blisters under his socks. They did not know that he sometimes arrived with rainwater inside his shoes. They did not know that before walking those 7 miles, Ethan had already cooked breakfast, packed the school lunches, washed dishes, and helped his daughter get ready for school. Most of all, they did not know that one small delay could cost him everything. Ethan was 37 years old and had been raising his 2 children alone for almost 3 years. His daughter Sophie was 11. She was quiet like her father and noticed far more than she said. His son Noah was 6 and still believed Ethan could solve every problem in the world. Their mother, Claire, had died after a sudden illness. Her death had left an emptiness in their small apartment that no amount of noise could fill. After she passed away, Ethan sold their old car to pay part of the hospital debt. He told the children it was only temporary. "We'll get another one someday," he had promised, but months turned into years. The factory paid enough to cover rent, food, electricity, and the children's basic needs, but only if nothing unexpected happened. Something unexpected always happened. One Monday morning, Ethan stood in the kitchen spreading a thin layer of peanut butter over 4 pieces of bread. He placed 2 sandwiches into lunch bags and cut an apple in half, so both children could have some. Noah walked in wearing one sock. "Dad, I can't find the other one." Ethan opened the laundry basket and searched through a pile of clothes. "Check under your bed." "I already did." Sophie entered carrying Noah's missing sock. "It was behind the sofa," she said. Noah smiled. "Sophie finds everything." Ethan handed him the sock. "That's because your sister is a detective." Sophie smiled, but her eyes moved toward Ethan's shoes beside the door. The sole of the left shoe had started separating near the heel. Ethan had covered it with black tape, but the tape was peeling away. "Dad," Sophie said carefully, "are those shoes still okay?" Ethan looked down. "They're fine. You said that last week. They just need a little more tape." Sophie crossed her arms. "Does your foot hurt?" Ethan paused a little. "Then why don't you buy new shoes?" He looked at his daughter and forced a smile. "Because your school trip is next month, and Noah needs a warmer coat. I don't have to go on the trip." "Yes, you do, but Sophie," he said gently, "you're going. End of discussion." She lowered her eyes. "You always choose us first." "That's my job." "No," she whispered. "It's what you choose to do." Her words stayed with him long after he left the apartment. At 5:20, Ethan dropped the children at Mrs. Bennett's apartment downstairs. She watched them before school because Ethan's shift began too early. Mrs. Bennett opened her door wearing a blue robe. "You're walking again?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "It's going to rain. I'll be inside before it gets bad." She looked at his shoes. "You can't keep doing this forever." "I only need to do it until things improve." Mrs. Bennett sighed. "You've been saying that for 2 years. Ethan gave her a small smile and stepped outside. The street was dark and cold. His breath appeared in front of him as he walked past closed shops, empty bus stops, and rows of sleeping houses. He could have taken the bus, but the fare for 2 rides a day would cost more than he could spare. Every dollar mattered. At first, walking had felt temporary. Then it became routine. He knew every crack in the pavement. He knew which bakery turned on its lights first. He knew where stray dogs slept and which convenience store owner allowed him to refill his water bottle. That morning, the rain began after he had walked 3 miles. It fell lightly at first, then harder. Within minutes, Ethan's jacket was wet. Water entered the cracked side of his left shoe. His sock became cold and heavy. Still, he kept walking. He arrived at the factory with 12 minutes to spare. Inside the locker room, he removed his wet sock and squeezed out the water over a drain. Then he dried his foot with paper towels and put the sock back on. His co-worker Marcus entered and stopped him. "Did you walk through a river?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Something like that." "You seriously walked here? It's not that far." Marcus stared at him. 7 miles is far." Ethan closed his locker. "I'm used to it." During the shift, Ethan carried wooden panels, loaded boxes, and checked finished furniture for damage. He worked quietly and rarely complained. His supervisor, Mr. Grant, respected him. Near lunch, Mr. Grant called him aside. "Ethan, can you stay 2 extra hours tonight?" Ethan hesitated. Extra hours meant extra money. But it also meant Mrs. Bennett would have to keep the children longer. "I'll call home," he said. Mrs. Bennett agreed to help that evening. Ethan worked until 7 when he finally left the factory. The rain had stopped, but the temperature had dropped. His wet shoes felt stiff. He walked home slowly. By the time he reached the apartment, Noah was asleep on the sofa. Sophie sat beside him with a schoolbook open on her lap. She looked up. "You're late." "I had overtime. Did you eat?" "I'll eat now." She studied his face. "You look tired." "I'm okay." Sophie closed her book. "Dad, why do you always say that?" Ethan removed his jacket. "Because I am." She pointed toward his shoes. A dark red mark had spread through the wet fabric near his heel. "You're bleeding." Ethan looked down. "It's just a blister." Sophie stood quickly. Sit down, he almost laughed. You sound like your mother. Her face changed at the mention of Claire for a second. Neither of them spoke. Then Sophie brought the small first aid box from the bathroom. She cleaned his heel while he sat at the kitchen table. You shouldn't have to do this, Ethan said. You do things for us every day. That's different. Why? He had no answer. The following week became even harder. The factory reduced overtime because several orders were delayed. Noah developed a cough and needed medicine. Sophie brought home a form requesting $25 for her school trip. Ethan stared at the form that night. The rent was due in 6 days. The electric bill was already late. His shoes were nearly finished. He opened an old metal box where he kept emergency money. Inside were $14 and a few coins. He counted them twice, as if the amount might somehow change. From the bedroom, he heard Noah coughing. Ethan closed his eyes. Then he placed the money into an envelope marked Sophie's trip. The next morning, Sophie found it beside her lunch bag. She looked at him. Dad, where did this come from? I saved it. She knew he was lying, but she also knew why. Instead of arguing, she hugged him. Ethan held her tightly. Have a good day, he whispered. You too. But it was not a good day at the factory. Ethan felt a sharp pain in his left foot each time he lifted a box. By afternoon, he was limping. Marcus noticed. You need new shoes. I know, I have an old pair at home. They might fit. Ethan shook his head. I'm okay. Stop saying that. Ethan looked away. Accepting help had always been difficult for him. After Claire died, he had survived by convincing himself that he could handle everything alone. He believed asking for help meant admitting that he had failed his children, so he kept walking, he kept working, and he kept pretending. The pain was smaller than it really was. On Friday evening, Mr. Grant handed him his payslip. Ethan looked at the amount. With reduced hours, it was $70 less than usual. His stomach tightened. Mr. Grant lowered his voice. I know things have been slow. I'm hoping hours return next month. Ethan folded the paper. I understand. You're doing all right. Ethan gave the answer everyone expected. Yes, sir. He left the factory and began the long walk home. Halfway there, he stopped beneath a streetlight. His foot was throbbing. His stomach was empty. And his mind was filled with numbers that did not work. Rent, medicine, electricity, groceries. He leaned against a wall and lowered his head. For the first time in years, Ethan wondered whether hard work was enough. Then his phone rang. It was Sophie. Dad. Hey, sweetheart. Are you coming home? I'm walking now. Noah made you a picture. Ethan swallowed. What is it? He said it's our new car. He drew all three of us inside. Ethan closed his eyes. Sophie's voice became softer. Dad, are you crying? He wiped his face quickly. No, it's just cold. There was a pause. You don't have to hide everything from me, she said. Ethan looked toward the dark road ahead. I'll be home soon. We'll wait for you. He ended the call and began walking again. He did not know that, within a few days, his shoes would finally give out. And when they did, a stranger would see the truth he had hidden from everyone else. On Tuesday morning, Ethan woke to the sound of Noah coughing in the next room. He sat up and placed his feet on the floor. The moment his left heel touched the ground, pain shot up his leg. He grabbed the side of the bed. For several seconds, he could not stand. Then he heard Sophie in the hallway. Dad, are you awake? Ethan straightened before she entered. Yeah. Getting up, he slowly walked to the kitchen and prepared breakfast. Noah sat at the table, wrapped in a blanket. My throat hurts, he said. Ethan touched his forehead. No fever. That's good, Ethan said. You'll stay warm and drink water. Sophie watched her father move around the kitchen. You're limping. I slept in a strange position. She looked unconvinced. At the door, Ethan added a fresh strip of tape to his shoe. Sophie stood beside him, holding her backpack. Please take the bus today. I can't. I'll give back the trip money. No, and Dad, no. Sophie's voice came out sharper than he intended. Her face fell. Ethan immediately regretted it. He crouched carefully in front of her. I shouldn't have spoken like that. I'm just worried about you, I know. Then let me help. Ethan smiled sadly. You help more than you know. He kissed her forehead and left. Every step hurt by the time he reached the factory. The skin on his heel had opened again during the morning shift. Marcus pulled Ethan aside. You can barely walk. I'll be fine after lunch. Marcus shook his head. That doesn't even make sense. Mr. Grant approached them. What's going on? Nothing, Ethan said quickly. Marcus pointed at his foot. He's injured. Mr. Grant frowned. Sit down, I can work. That wasn't a request. Ethan sat on a wooden bench near the loading area. Mr. Grant crouched to inspect the shoe. How long has it been like this? A few weeks. Ethan looked embarrassed. Mr. Grant stood. Go home early. Ethan's head lifted. I can't lose the hours. You're not useful to anyone if you collapse. I need the money. Mr. Grant's expression softened. I understand, but I also have safety rules. Ethan clenched his jaw. He hated feeling helpless in the end. Mr. Grant moved him to a seated packing station for the rest of the day. That evening, Ethan arrived home and found Mrs. Bennett waiting in the hallway. Noah's cough is worse. she said. He started running a fever after school. Ethan hurried inside. Noah lay on the sofa, his cheeks red. Dad, he whispered. Ethan sat beside him and placed a cool cloth on his forehead. I'm here. Mrs. Bennett handed him a small bottle of fever medicine. This is almost empty. I'll buy more. You need to take him to the clinic if the fever rises. Ethan nodded. That night, he barely slept. Every hour, he checked Noah's temperature. He gave him water, changed the cloth on his forehead, and sat beside him until he fell asleep again at 4:45. Ethan's alarm rang. He stared at the ceiling. He had never missed work because of the children unless it was unavoidable. This was unavoidable. He called Mr. Grant. My son is sick, Ethan said. I need to stay home. Mr. Grant paused. I understand. I'll be back tomorrow. Take care of your boy. But Ethan, we're already short today. The words were not cruel, but they carried weight. I know. I'm sorry. After the call, Ethan sat at the kitchen table with his phone in his hand. One missed day meant less money. Less money meant another bill would wait. Sophie entered, wearing her school uniform. I can stay with Noah, she offered. No, but then you can work. You are 11 years old. You're going to school. I know how to give him medicine. That isn't your responsibility. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. Then why is everything your responsibility? Ethan froze. Sophie wiped her face. I'm sorry. No, he said softly. You didn't do anything wrong. He pulled her into his arms. I just don't want you to be alone in this, she whispered. Ethan held her tighter for the rest of the day. He cared for Noah and tried not to think about work. By evening, the fever had dropped. The next morning, Ethan returned to the factory. He left home earlier because his foot had become so painful that he knew he would walk more slowly. The sky was still dark. Cold wind moved through the empty streets. After 4 miles, Ethan heard a tearing sound. He stopped. The sole of his left shoe had separated completely from the front. It hung open like a mouth. Ethan stood beneath a street lamp and stared at it. No, he whispered. He sat on the curb and searched his pockets. No tape. No string. Nothing. He pressed the sole against the shoe and tried to hold it in place with the laces, but it slipped free again. He checked the time. If he turned back, he would miss his shift. If he kept walking, the broken shoe would cut his foot even more. A bus passed on the opposite side of the road. For a moment, Ethan considered using the last few dollars in his wallet. Then he remembered Noah's medicine. He stood. He placed his foot carefully into the broken shoe and continued walking. Each step made the sole slap against the pavement. After half a mile, the sound became humiliatingly loud. Cars passed. Some drivers glanced at him. No one stopped. Ethan lowered his head and kept moving. His heel began bleeding again. The cold air entered through the open shoe. His toes became numb. Near the edge of downtown, he stopped beside a traffic signal and leaned against a metal pole. His breathing was uneven. He looked at the factory building still several miles away. For the first time, he felt defeated, not tired, not worried. Defeated. He thought about Claire. He remembered how she used to touch his face when he was overwhelmed. You don't have to carry the whole world alone, she would say. But she was gone, and he had carried it alone because there had been no other choice. A gray car slowed beside him. Ethan barely noticed until the passenger window lowered. Woman in her late 40s leaned toward the open window. Excuse me, she called. Are you all right? Ethan straightened. Yes, ma'am. She looked at his broken shoe and then at his face. You don't look all right. I'm just heading to work. Where? The furniture factory near Ridge Road. Her eyebrows lifted. That's several miles from here, I know. Get in. I'll drive you. Ethan immediately shook his head. No, thank you. She did not move. Your engine I can manage. The woman looked at him for a moment. Sometimes people say they can manage because they're afraid of what happens if they admit they can't. Ethan said nothing. She unlocked the passenger door. My name is Rebecca. I'm going in that direction. You can sit in the back if that makes you more comfortable. He looked down the road. Then at his watch. He thought of Mr. Grant's warning. He thought of the missing hours. He thought of Sophie asking why everything was his responsibility. Finally, Ethan opened the door. He sat carefully in the passenger seat and placed the broken shoe flat on the floor. Thank you, he said. Rebecca smiled gently. You're welcome. The car was warm. The seat felt soft beneath him. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Ethan stared out the window as the streets he usually crossed on foot passed quickly beside him. Rebecca glanced at his shoe. Has it been broken long? Not like this in your foot. It's fine. She smiled faintly. You say that very quickly. Ethan looked away. Rebecca did not ask again. When they reached a red light, her phone connected to the car speaker. A young boy's voice played from a saved message. Mom, don't forget the meeting at the center. Rebecca quickly stopped the message. Sorry, she said. My son sends reminders because he thinks I forget everything. Ethan gave a small smile. My daughter does the same. How old is she? 11. My son is 6. Your wife must have busy mornings. The smile disappeared from Ethan's face. She passed away 3 years ago. Rebecca's expression changed. I'm sorry, thank you. The light turned green. But Rebecca remained quiet for several seconds. Then she asked, "Do you walk to work every day?" Ethan nodded. Double quotes, "How far?" "About 7 miles. One way." "Yes." Rebecca looked shocked. "Why?" "My car broke down after my wife died. I sold it. I never managed to replace it." He did not know why he kept speaking. Maybe because she was a stranger. Maybe because the warmth of the car made him feel safe. Or maybe because he was simply too tired to keep pretending. He told her about the reduced hours, Noah's fever, Sophie's trip, the unpaid electric bill, the shoes. He did not tell the story dramatically. He spoke in short, quiet sentences. Rebecca listened. When he finished, she asked, "Does anyone know how difficult things are?" Ethan stared at his hands. "No." "Why not?" He swallowed. "Because my children already lost their mother. They need to believe I can handle things." Rebecca's eyes filled with sympathy. "Maybe they don't need a father who can handle everything." Ethan looked at her. "Maybe they just need a father who..." "This stays," she continued. "A father who loves them. A father who is willing to accept help when he needs it." Her words struck something deep inside him. Ethan turned toward the window. For years, he had kept his grief quiet. He had hidden his fear from his children. He had walked through rain, cold, pain, and exhaustion without allowing himself to break. But sitting in that warm car, with his broken shoe at his feet, he finally could not hold everything back. A tear moved down his cheek. He wiped it away quickly. Then another came. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "You have nothing to apologize for," Rebecca said. Ethan covered his face with one hand. "I'm so tired." It was the first time he had said those words aloud. Not "I'm fine," not "I can manage," not "I'll figure it." To what? Just the truth. "I'm so tired." Rebecca pulled into the factory parking lot but did not immediately stop near the entrance. She parked beneath a tree and turned off the engine. Ethan lowered his hand. His eyes were red. Rebecca reached into her handbag and removed a business card. "I run a family support." When Ethan's shift ended, the sky was turning orange behind the factory. He stood outside with Rebecca's business card in his hand. The family support center closed at 7. It was already 5:20. If he walked home, he could be with the children before dinner. If he went to the center, Mrs. Bennett would have to watch them longer. For several minutes, he remained near the factory gate. His old instinct told him to throw the card away. He had survived this long without help. He could keep surviving then. He remembered Sophie's words. "Why is everything your responsibility?" He remembered Noah's drawing of the 3 of them inside a car. He remembered the blood inside his shoe. Most of all, he remembered himself crying in a stranger's car and finally admitting that he was tired. Ethan called Mrs. Bennett. "I need to stop somewhere after work," he said. "Could the children stay with you a little longer?" "Of course, I'll pay you when I can. You already know I don't want your money." Ethan hesitated. "Thank you." The support center was 3 miles from the factory. Walking there with the broken shoe took almost an hour. When Ethan arrived, he found a simple brick building with bright windows and a blue sign above the entrance. Inside, the walls were covered with children's drawings. Shelves held canned food, school supplies, coats and shoes. A receptionist looked up. "Can I help you?" Ethan placed the business card on the desk. "Rebecca gave me this." The receptionist smiled. "She told us you might come." Ethan almost turned around. The idea that Rebecca had expected him made him feel exposed. Then she appeared from a hallway. "You came," she said warmly. "I almost didn't, but you did." She introduced him to a caseworker named Angela. Angela invited Ethan into a small office and offered him coffee. He refused at first, then accepted when she asked again. She did not make him feel like a failure. She did not speak to him with pity. She simply asked practical questions: his income, his rent, the children's ages, his work schedule, his transport problem, his medical expenses. Ethan answered slowly. When Angela asked why he had waited so long to seek help, he stared into his coffee. "I thought needing help meant I wasn't taking care of my family." Angela nodded. "A lot of good parents think that. What if there aren't enough resources? That is our job to manage, not yours." She opened a folder. "We can give you emergency grocery support today. We can also cover part of your electric bill so your service stays active." Ethan looked up. "You can do that?" "Yes," she continued. "We have donated school supplies and winter coats. We also work with a local shoe store. You can choose a pair of proper work shoes tomorrow." Ethan looked down at the broken shoe. His eyes burned. Angela turned another page. "There is also a transportation program. It helps working parents receive repaired used cars through small monthly payments." Ethan stared at her. "A car? The waiting list is usually several months, but Rebecca explained your situation. One vehicle may be available sooner." He shook his head. "This feels like too much." Angela leaned forward. "You have spent 3 years giving everything to your children. Let someone give something to you." Ethan was silent. Then he slowly nodded. "All right." Those 2 words were harder for him to say than he expected, but once he said them, something inside him began to loosen. That evening, Ethan returned home carrying 2 bags of groceries and a new box of fever medicine for Noah. Sophie opened the door. Her eyes moved from the grocery bags to her father's face. "What happened?" Ethan placed the bags on the kitchen counter. "Someone helped me." Sophie looked surprised. You let them? He gave a small, embarrassed smile. I did. Noah ran into the kitchen. Did you buy cookies? Ethan looked inside one bag and found a packet of chocolate cookies. I guess I did. Noah cheered. Sophie continued watching her father. Are you okay? She asked. This time Ethan did not give his usual answer. I've been having a hard time, he said. A harder time than I wanted you to know. Sophie remained still. I thought hiding it would protect you, he continued. But I think it only made you more worried. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't have to protect us from everything. Ethan walked toward her. I know that now. She hugged him tightly. Noah joined them, still holding the cookies for a moment. The three of them stood together in the small kitchen. Nothing about their life was perfect. The bills were still there. The apartment was still small. Claire was still gone, but Ethan no longer felt alone. The following morning, Marcus drove Ethan to the shoe store connected with the support center. Ethan chose a strong pair of black work shoes. When he put them on, he stood and took several careful steps. There was no pain from a broken sole, no cold air against his toes, no tape holding anything together. He looked down and became unexpectedly emotional. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. They're just shoes. Man, Ethan smiled. Not to me. At work, Mr. Grant called him into the office. Ethan expected a warning about his missed day instead. Mr. Grant closed the door and said, Rebecca called me. Ethan stiffened. She didn't share personal details. Mr. Grant added, she only asked whether we could adjust your schedule. Ethan looked down. I should have told you what was happening. Yes, you should have. I didn't want special treatment. Mr. Grant leaned back in his chair. This isn't special treatment. You've covered shifts for other workers for years. You've stayed late. You've never arrived late, even after walking 7 miles. Ethan said nothing. For the next month, Mr. Grant continued. You can work a slightly later shift so you can take the children to school. We also have extra quality control hours available. It's less physical than loading. Ethan looked up. Why are you doing this? Because you're a good employee, and because sometimes good people need someone to meet them halfway. Ethan nodded slowly. Thank you. Over the next few weeks, life began improving one careful step at a time. The electric bill was brought up to date. Noah recovered from his cough. Sophie went on her school trip. The support center gave both children warm winter coats. Ethan started working at the quality control table for part of each shift, giving his injured foot time to heal. Then, one Thursday afternoon, Rebecca called. We found a car, she said. Ethan nearly dropped the phone. It was a 12-year-old blue sedan. The paint was faded near the back door, and one window opened slowly, but the engine was strong. A local mechanic had repaired the brakes, replaced the tires, and completed a full inspection. The payment was small enough for Ethan to manage each month. When he brought the car home, Noah ran around it 3 times. This is like my picture, he shouted. Sophie touched the passenger door. Is it really ours? Ethan smiled. It's ours as long as I keep making the payments. Noah opened the back door. Can we drive somewhere? It's almost bedtime, just around the block. Sophie laughed. Please, Dad. Ethan pretended to think. All right, around the block. The children climbed inside. Ethan sat behind the steering wheel. For a moment, he did not start the engine. He remembered Claire sitting beside him in their old car. He remembered hospital bills, sleepless nights, and the day he sold that car to save their apartment. His eyes filled. Sophie leaned forward from the back seat. Dad, he started the engine. I'm okay, he began. Then he stopped himself. He looked at his children in the mirror. I'm happy, he corrected. They drove slowly through the neighborhood. Noah pressed his face near the window, excited by every turn. Sophie sat quietly, smiling when they passed the long road Ethan had walked each morning. He looked at the pavement and remembered every painful mile. The rain, the cold, the blisters, the loneliness. He had believed strength meant never stopping. Now he understood that strength also meant knowing when to open a door someone had offered. Months later, Ethan began volunteering at the support center twice a month. He helped carry food boxes, repair shelves, and speak with fathers who arrived looking ashamed and exhausted. One evening, he noticed a young man standing near the entrance with 2 children beside him. The man looked nervous. I think I'm in the wrong place, he said. Ethan recognized the fear in his eyes. He had once felt it himself. You're not, Ethan replied. I don't want charity. Neither did I. The man looked at him. Ethan smiled gently. This place didn't take away my pride. It gave me enough support to stand again. The man remained silent. Then he stepped inside. Later, Rebecca found Ethan stacking boxes in the storage room. You've become very good at welcoming people, she said. Ethan smiled. I remember how difficult it was to walk through that door. Rebecca glanced toward the parking lot. And how is the car? Still running? The children? Doing well. And you? Ethan thought before answering. I still have hard days. Rebecca nodded. That's life. But I don't hide every hard day anymore. That sounds like progress. It is. That night, Ethan drove home beneath a light rain. Sophie sat in the front seat while Noah slept in the back. They passed the streetlight where Ethan had once stopped with a broken shoe and almost no hope left. Sophie looked out the window. Is this where the lady picked you up? A little farther ahead. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you said no? Ethan tightened his hands around the steering wheel all the time. What do you think would have happened? He looked at the road. I probably would have kept walking. Sophie waited. And maybe I would have made it to work that day, he continued. But I think something inside me would have kept breaking. She rested her head against the seat. I'm glad you got in the car, Ethan smiled. So am I. When they reached home, he carried Noah upstairs while Sophie held